America, the land of opportunity, a place where dreams are made and futures are forged. From the bustling cities to the quiet countryside, the American spirit thrives in every corner. The home of the brave, a nation built on the sacrifices of those who came before us, and the courage of those who stand today. But also, a nation deeply divided. A land where differing visions for the future often clash, leading to passionate debates and, at times, intense conflict. In 2016, Donald Trump, a businessman with no political experience, shocked the world by becoming the 45th President of the United States. His campaign, marked by bold promises and controversial statements, resonated with many who felt unheard. His victory exposed a rift in American society, a clash between those who felt left behind and those who feared for the future. The streets echoed with the voices of both his supporters and detractors, each side fervently believing in their vision for America. Fast forward to 2020, and the drama only intensified. The nation found itself at a crossroads, with the stakes higher than ever before. Joe Biden, a seasoned politician with decades of experience, challenged Trump in an election unlike any other. The debates were fierce, the campaigns relentless, each candidate presenting a starkly different vision for the future. The COVID-19 pandemic loomed large, adding fuel to the already raging fire of political polarization. The virus not only threatened lives, but also became a symbol of the broader ideological battles being fought across the nation. Biden ultimately emerged victorious, promising to heal the nation's wounds and restore America's standing in the world. His message of unity and hope resonated with many, offering a glimmer of optimism in turbulent times. But the transition was anything but smooth. The nation watched with bated breath as tensions escalated, and the peaceful transfer of power, a cornerstone of American democracy, was put to the test. Trump refused to concede, alleging widespread voter fraud without evidence. His claims fueled a movement that questioned the very foundation of the electoral process. The nation held its breath as the drama unfolded, culminating in the unprecedented storming of the Capitol building by Trump supporters. The images of chaos and violence shocked the world, a stark contrast to the ideals of democracy and order. The events of January 6, 2021, served as a stark reminder of the fragility of democracy. The broken windows and damaged halls of the Capitol stood as a testament to the deep divisions and the urgent need for healing. It also set the stage for a new chapter in American history, one marked by the stark contrast between the Trump and Biden presidencies. As the nation moves forward, the lessons of the past and the hopes for the future will shape the path ahead. Donald Trump's presidency was anything but ordinary. From the moment he descended the golden escalator at Trump Tower to announce his candidacy, it was clear that his time in office would be unlike any other. From his first day in office, he governed by instinct and Twitter, using the social media platform as his primary means of communication. His tweets often set the news agenda for the day, sparking debates and controversies. He often bypassed traditional media and diplomatic protocols, preferring direct communication with the public. This approach was both praised for its transparency and criticized for its unpredictability. His supporters loved his no-nonsense style and his willingness to challenge the status quo. They saw him as a political outsider who could shake up the establishment and bring about real change. They saw him as a successful businessman who could bring his deal-making skills to Washington. His background in real estate and television gave him a unique perspective on governance. Trump's signature policy was America First, a nationalist approach that emphasized American interests above all else. This policy resonated with many Americans who felt left behind by globalization and economic change. He slapped tariffs on Chinese goods, renegotiated trade deals, and pulled the U.S. out of international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal. These moves were aimed at protecting American jobs and industries. He also appointed 2 conservative justices to the Supreme Court, shifting the balance of the court for a generation. This was one of his most lasting legacies, ensuring a conservative tilt in the judiciary. Trump's presidency was not without its controversies. His actions and statements often sparked outrage and protests, both domestically and internationally. His rhetoric on immigration and race relations was divisive, to say the least. His policies, such as the travel ban and family separations at the border, were met with fierce opposition. His administration faced multiple investigations, including one by Special Counsel Robert Mueller into Russian interference in the 2016 election. These investigations cast a long shadow over his presidency, and his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic was widely criticized. Critics argued that his response was slow and inadequate, contributing to the high number of cases and deaths in the U.S. Despite the chaos and controversy, Trump remained popular with his base. His supporters appreciated his directness and his willingness to take on the establishment. He held massive rallies across the country, where he energized his supporters with promises to make America great again. These rallies were a key part of his strategy, allowing him to connect directly with his base and maintain their loyalty. As his term came to an end, the nation remained deeply divided. Yet, Trump's impact on American politics and society was undeniable, leaving a legacy that would be debated for years to come. Joe Biden entered the White House, promising to restore normalcy after the tumultuous Trump years. His campaign was built on the promise of bringing stability and a sense of calm back to the nation, which had been deeply divided and shaken by the previous administration's policies and rhetoric. He pledged to unite the country, combat the COVID-19 pandemic, and bring science back to the forefront of the national response. His administration quickly rolled out a comprehensive vaccination plan, aiming to get shots into the arms of millions of Americans as swiftly as possible, and rebuild America's relationships with its allies. Biden's foreign policy focused on mending the strained ties with NATO and other international partners, emphasizing diplomacy and cooperation over confrontation. His supporters breathed a collective sigh of relief, hopeful that a more experienced and predictable hand was now on the wheel. They celebrated the return to what they saw as a more traditional and respectful approach to governance. Biden immediately reversed many of Trump's policies. This included a series of executive orders aimed at undoing the previous administration's actions on immigration, environmental regulations, and health care. He rejoined the Paris Climate Accord and the World Health Organization, signaling a renewed commitment to global cooperation on climate change and public health. He also ended the travel ban on citizens from several Muslim-majority countries, a move that was widely praised by human rights organizations and seen as a step towards restoring America's image as a welcoming nation. On the domestic front, he pushed through a massive COVID-19 relief package and began working on his ambitious Build Back Better agenda, which aimed to address long-standing issues in the American economy and society. This agenda included investments in infrastructure, clean energy, and social programs. The goal was to create jobs, modernize the nation's infrastructure, and tackle climate change head-on. However, Biden's presidency has also faced its share of challenges. The political landscape remained deeply polarized, making it difficult to pass significant legislation without fierce opposition. The withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan in August 2021 was chaotic and deadly, damaging America's credibility on the world stage. The images of desperate Afghans clinging to planes and the tragic loss of life were seared into the public consciousness. Inflation soared to a 40-year high, eroding the economic gains made during the Trump administration. Rising prices for goods and services put a strain on American families, leading to widespread discontent. And Biden's approval ratings plummeted as Americans grew increasingly frustrated with the state of the country. The combination of economic woes and the lingering effects of the pandemic created a challenging environment for his administration. Despite these setbacks, Biden has remained committed to his core message of unity and bipartisanship. He has consistently called for cooperation across the aisle, urging lawmakers to put aside their differences for the good of the nation. He has sought to work with Republicans on issues like infrastructure and gun control, albeit with limited success. The deeply entrenched partisan divide has made it difficult to achieve significant bipartisan agreements. He has also made history by appointing the most diverse cabinet in American history, including the first female vice president, Kamala Harris. This move was seen as a significant step towards greater representation and inclusivity in the highest levels of government. Section 4. Fire and Ice. The art of the deal versus the power of empathy. The differences between Donald Trump and Joe Biden go beyond their policies. They are two men with vastly different personalities, leadership styles, and approaches to governing. Trump, the consummate showman, thrived on conflict and confrontation. He was a master of the art of the deal, always willing to negotiate and renegotiate to get what he wanted. He was also a master communicator, using simple language and memorable slogans to connect with his base. Biden, on the other hand, is a more traditional politician. He values experience, consensus building, and diplomacy. He is known for his empathy and his ability to connect with people on a personal level. He is also a skilled negotiator, having spent decades working across the aisle in the Senate. These contrasting styles were on full display during their respective presidencies. Trump's presidency was a whirlwind of rallies, tweets, and executive orders. Biden's presidency, while not without its drama, has been more measured and deliberate. Section 5. America First. Making America Great Again? Trump's America First agenda resonated with many Americans who felt that their country had lost its way. They believed that previous administrations had been too willing to put the interests of other countries ahead of America's. They cheered as Trump took on China, renegotiated trade deals, and withdrew from international agreements that he believed were unfair to the U.S. Trump's supporters also applauded his tax cuts, which they said boosted the economy. They credited him with creating jobs, lowering unemployment, and making America energy independent. They also praised his appointment of conservative judges, which they believe will help protect their values for years to come. However, critics argue that Trump's America First policies were short-sighted and harmful. They say that his tariffs led to higher prices for consumers and hurt American businesses. They argue that his withdrawal from international agreements damaged America's credibility and made the world less safe. Critics also point to the rising national debt under Trump, which they say will have negative consequences for future generations. They also condemn his rhetoric on immigration and race relations, which they say divided the country and emboldened white supremacists.